Ai ai ai. Ooh, double cooler. This is a nice comp, to be honest. Nice. Ja. Hello, Jason. Ah, that's a vegan. Oh, that's good. I'm doing good, thank you. um... I'm not doing good after that. Oh god. I'm not that familiar with this weapon. As you can probably see by this gameplay. Very nice. Good job. My team is like hard carrying me. Aye, aye, aye. Also, the blaster's doing a lot of damage. So yeah, that's some pallet here. That's fine. Wow, I get beamed totally. And we have it. That's unfortunate. We were really close to it down. Oh wow. What a game. Hmm. No, Jason, what I'm doing is I'm, at least in like 4 minutes, I'll be doing a coaching session, with someone who like filled out a form a few weeks ago asking for it. Um, and yeah, that'll just be us two. So I'll actually not be playing much this stream. That was just kind of one warm-up game, that I had to pass the time. Amazing. I love how pen is like this like pen that I use to draw on my screen is always so annoying to set up. Let's set up the screen share. Amazing. Okay, let's get this started then. Um, Hello there. Welcome to the
Hi.
stream. How are you doing on this definitely coaching Monday and definitely not a Tuesday?
Very good, very good. Thank you for coaching.
No worries. Okay. Um, yeah, we have a bunch of not the first one, that's my game. We have a bunch of heavy edit here. Um, you said you were like working on um like gathering more information and you weren't unsure what to do with that information, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll boot up this game, but I'm curious like what kind of stuff you've been working on there, like what kind of awareness things have you tried to look forward, like look for more?
So specifically, I know it won't show it on here, but opening map and seeing like
Mm-hmm.
behind me, seeing
Mm-hmm.
for enemy ink. There's also specials, like when our team has specials, when
Mm-hmm.
their team has specials type thing. Um, and just kind of like just awareness of just like where I'm looking as
Mm-hmm.
well. I've specifically been trying to work on like my camera angles and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. Still could use some work,
Mm-hmm.
but you know.
Nice, that sounds good. Okay. Um, I'll actually get this Inkblot game up first. Because I took a quick peek earlier, and I think that might be a better point to start with. Yeah, no, that's really, really good. Um, and yeah, good job, like putting in that kind of specific practice on all of those skills. And that'll really pay off. Okay. Do you have like we'll see if anything comes up in this game, but do you have specific areas where you like feel like you're collecting information and you aren't sure what to do with it?
So specifically, I've noticed that there's a couple times, I don't know if it's seen in these games specifically, um, but I've noticed that specifically Booyah Bomb or
Mm-hmm.
strikes, I kind of like have like my own prediction of where
Mm-hmm.
people are going to throw them.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up uh kind of kind of like putting it in like a certain space in my mind, and so I almost kind of ignore it subconsciously and end up like running into them. Or
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to use it earlier than they do, or something like that, and I end up getting caught in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other things is specifically Reef Slider.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that whenever I notice that the enemy team has it, I'm always like super. Whenever I get super anxious about something,
Mm-hmm.
I typically start um, basically draw. I guess um, leaving areas I should be in, kind
Mm-hmm.
of like and just kind of like panicking a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
specifically on like the clams game that we're gonna watch, I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that the umbrella has reef slider, and so just drop down and try to help my teammates because none of us are in mid, and I am really concerned about choke,
Mm-hmm.
but it leaves me vulnerable there because that's exactly where they're going to use reef slider. So I didn't get punished for it there, but there's been multiple times where I
Mm-hmm.
have been punished.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Um, we'll see. Like, we'll take a look at the Inkblot Clamps game later then. Um, and see if we can get anything out of like that example. Um, yeah, that's really interesting. Um, are there any game? I don't think we have any games with like Booyah and strikes. Um, we yeah we can see if we can just talk about it in general. Um,
Okay.
okay. Um, I think like very generally, from like what I've seen, you've like you have a relatively good intuition on like where you should position with your weapon. Um, and kind of where you can follow up well and that kind of stuff. Um, so I think something I remember you like asking about when we talked about this in DMs was like making game plans. Um, so honestly, what we can do really quickly is just very generally like make a game plan for this kind of comp. Also, I'm not sure if I talked about this earlier. You can just watch my Discord stream for for the screen share.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, I have like a one up on my my computer, so I'm like watching your stream on my computer as
yeah.
well. Oh, okay. I can pull
Um,
it up on both.
yeah. Um, if you can pull up the Discord stream, then that's a little more like there's not there's no stream delay. Like I guess
Okay,
with
okay.
Twitch there's not that much stream delay anyway, and with YouTube it's a lot more. Um, but still, it's nice to like not have anything. Okay. Um, back from the sidetrack. Like thinking about like these kind of comps right here. Um, we can really quickly talk about like our game plan for this and what kind of our win condition should be. Because ultimately that's what game plans come down to, right? It's kind of trying to find a win condition that is finding some kind of idea where if we do that and if we succeed in doing that, we have a really easy time winning the game or like winning advantages and from that then winning the game.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so that's something we can keep in mind when like trying to make game plans mid-game, but also if we're trying to make game plans like at the start of the game or like when thinking about it in between games, and trying to like adjust for what their comp is doing or stuff like that. Um, so something that we can maybe see in this game is they have like three very short range weapons, and then they have a rapid. Um, but like And I guess we can have a bit like more of a conversation style about this. Um, like, what do you think like your weapon is really good at when you're thinking about like fighting these kind of weapons?
So I'm definitely outranging them.
Mm-hmm,
So um I can probably do a pretty good job getting brush when it
mm-hmm,
goes. So it goes both ways with brush. I feel like when it zips, because I can if it's predictable enough, then I can probably get it. If not, then I'll probably need some help. I feel like I can definitely outrange and I can probably outpaint it, but uh
mm-hmm,
it depends on if it's under a ledge or not.
mm-hmm.
Probably don't want to go too
Yep.
close to that. And then dualies is just kind of like another aggro weapon. I think I do kind of struggle with dualies just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Um, just being as it's just very movement oriented.
Yep.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense, and I definitely agree with like what you talked about with brush and try. You outrange these weapons, and that's kind of first of all the biggest advantage you can have. Um, is like if you have more range than a weapon, then you can just position outside of their range and shred them down. Um, what these kind of short range weapons will do in response to that is they'll try to use cover. So maybe we can see this at the start of this game real quick. Um, yeah, like we didn't see that much here, but like short range weapons would really like to position around like these stacks right here, or like under those kind of ledges, where because they have cover, they like you can't use your range on them because they're behind cover. So to get to them, you'd have to like get into their range. Um,
okay.
And that's ultimately what these kind of weapons play for, and that's what you don't want to give them. um, because you don't want to give up your kind of range advantages in situations like this, especially with dualies, because dualies is a monster if you get like into its range. Um, so the idea, and I think what you've been doing a really good job of in these games from what I've seen so far, is kind of staying in those areas where you have sightlines on people, where they can't really go behind cover. And if they go behind cover, then that's your team's job. That's not your job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately what I'd say, like your win condition in this game is, in terms of just like winning fights, it would be to outrange these three weapons, to outrange Duelist, Cry, and Brush, to not like get too close to them, to not contest them if they're under a ledge or behind cover or something, and kind of just stop them from moving forward. And if there's open space, then you can try to move forward in that as well, because then you outrange them still. But to not kind of get too close to them and contest them. And then for the blaster, you'll kind of have to try to avoid them as much as possible because that matchup is just rough.
Yeah, it really is. And I noticed during this scrim that
Mhm.
we really weren't focusing too much on Blaster, and I think that was a big downside. Like it was
Mhm.
a struggle
Mhm.
to be sure.
Yeah. It's really difficult to deal with um, a Rapid Pro because it has so much range and it can poke you so safely from so far away that like none of your weapons in this comp can really deal with that. Maybe if you have grab up, and maybe if you get close to it. Like if you get close to it, by all means, go rush it down, go make its life hell, get in its face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you can't do that, then you just kind of have to live with it being there because there's not much you can do. Maybe you can throw bursts at it, like the Splash could throw bursts at it, and maybe we can Zuka it or something. But apart from that, the easiest way to kind of fight against blasters is to kind of try to fight in areas where they can't hit you,
Okay.
which I guess isn't really a satisfying answer, but it's it's kind of the easiest. But yeah, like going back to what I talked about earlier, this kind of pick works out really well for you. And you do a really good job like getting this pick because it's in an open space where you like outrange the try. The try is also focused on something else entirely. Um, but like it's open space, they can't get behind any cover or any other like behind any ledge, under any ledge. Um, so that's like a good fight for you. Yeah. Um, yeah, and like these picks in a similar way.
Mm-hmm. They just kind of just kept
Yep.
dropping.
And that's what's wonderful about Edit as a weapon. If enemies make mistakes and get into your kind of range where you just have this insane fire rate, then they just die. They just explode. And you're doing a really good job of like exploding that. Um, yeah. This is the kind of point where we have to watch out with the camera control a bit. Um, I'll just bring this up real quick because you were working on it earlier. This is the point where like we want someone on our team to be looking in this kind of direction because that's where some of the
Mm-hmm.
enemies are coming from. And in this case, you're probably the best person to do that. Um, so kind of it'd be good if you would like look in this area in this situation because hopefully your team can deal with this drop by themselves. It's a 2v1 and the enemy doesn't have any paint.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can like your team can do that without your help. Um, and
Yeah, I feel
then
like this is
yeah.
a
Mhm.
really bad like it was like a solo queue play. And I feel like I
Yeah.
have like a solo queue like mind.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense because it's really difficult to get out of this kind of solo queue mindset. It's someone that like something that a lot of people that I've talked to or that I've coached kind of have struggled with. Um, but yeah, it's something I think. Is this like with a consistent team that you're playing with, or was this like a pickup, or were you subbing or something?
Yeah, I was subbing.
Okay. But you do play on a like consistent team, right?
We're kind of like my team is kind of on a break right
Mm-hmm.
now, so I'm just kind
Okay.
of like subbing for other people,
Okay.
trying to get more feedback from
Mm-hmm.
different players and stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah. Um, so yeah, what's really like valuable to kind of try to combat this like solo queue mindset is working together on like communications. Specifically working together like in a team or like if you're playing a scrim, then just with the people you're playing the scrim with. Um, Trying to get better at talking about what everyone wants to do. Um, so like just kind of everyone continuously doing callouts about where am I right now? What is my idea? What do I want to do? Which areas do I want to look at? Um, and then that hopefully gives everyone more information on where you can follow up, where like the team isn't looking right now. Because if we know that two of our teammates are kind of looking at this top left area right here, then we can maybe see no one is looking in this direction right now. And that's something that we need to look at because that's where enemies will definitely come from, because that's how this map works.
Yeah, that's definitely
um, yeah. So like those kind of callouts can help. Oftentimes it's something where like if you're on a consistent team and playing with a consistent team, that will be a lot easier. Kind of coordinating all of this. Because then usually what will happen is that you've played this map enough with your team that you know like some people are gonna look this direction. If you're riding tower, then you're gonna look this direction. And that just becomes second nature. So some of it
Okay,
is just
okay.
like playing with a consistent team will make this a lot better. But some of it is also just like talking about it in callouts, specifically talking about intentions. That can really help with that a lot.
Okay, yeah. It definitely gives
Hmm.
me something to think about. Maybe to maybe work on it,
Hmm.
maybe in comms, I could just kind of like say which way I'm looking
Yeah,
to
for sure.
kind of like
Hmm.
give myself like like a mental picture of no, they're already looking this way, I should look the other way.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Um, Definitely agree with that. Um, like even if it's just for yourself, or like to be honest, that call out is also really valuable for everyone else. Um, but I like that call out, like for the purpose of seeing yourself, like what you said, seeing yourself that you don't need to look in a direction or that you're doing good by looking in that direction, but also for everyone else to kind of notice you're covering this area. I could either help with that or I could see, um, I don't know, I don't need to help with that. I can focus on focusing another area.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, good idea. Mhm. Also, I'm seeing a lot of people in chat talking, like trying to bring you on, like the team you're playing with right now. I don't know what's going on there. That sounds fun. Um, mhm. I think right here, just like as a quick side note, you could move a lot, like forward a bit faster. Because you basically
Okay.
almost got a team wipe here, or like your team almost got a team wipe here. Like we get a lot of picks in mid, and then it's only the brush left alive. Which like
Yes.
should maybe indicate like we can try moving up like right stack, maybe even left stack. There's a brush here, so maybe not left stack. But we can like move up a bit faster right here. And that's just a really small thing. By the way, if there's any moment where you kind of remember that you like maybe collected any information in those games and didn't know what to do with them, then just like bring it up and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I don't know how long those games are, so maybe you don't remember.
Yeah. It was recent, but honestly, like some of them just kind of morphed together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. I don't think we knew about this flank.
No, we did not,
Yep.
from what I remember.
Yeah. Okay, so that's honestly another thing where like talking about the direction in which we're looking would help a lot. Because like this brush, we can maybe look at it from the brush perspective. Takes a like relatively common flank on this map. And if there were people looking at it, then we could have probably stopped it. So it was like a case of everyone was looking in this direction. And we weren't actually watching the flank right here. Yeah. So honestly, yet another point where just talking about, wow, correct perspective, thank you. Talking about like which perspective we're looking, which area we're covering, because like that's almost the same thing, right? Talking about where you're looking and what area you're kind of covering, what area you're stopping enemies from going through, is basically the same thing. At least usually it should be. Nice, good crossfire angles here. Nice. Okay. Yeah. We just got a little
Yeah, I
bit too
got
close
too
to the
greedy.
fair. Yep. So kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where like against those kind of weapons, you have to watch out to not get too close to them, and especially around those kind of ledges to just watch out that you're keeping your distance. But yeah, those kind of crossfire angles you're hitting into mid, those are really good. Keep that up. Yeah. I don't think we need to back up as far here. Because kind of
Okay.
it's a similar situation where some of the team just went down.
Yeah. So specifically on here, like I noticed that my teammates were down, so I backed up. There's a lot of instances where like I see that my teammates are down. I kind of back up and I am kind of like on the fence on whether I should back up more so that I can give jumps in a safe place, or if I should stand my ground and try to like bait out the enemy or something at times. Um, that's another kind of piece of information that I feel like if I do back up, we lose a lot of space.
Yep.
But if I don't, then we don't get jumps in and like they die to like a bomb that was thrown at me or something. Which I'm still kind of like trying out like different like how far I should back up. But I think it's just kind of also a little bit of intuition. Like it's more intuition than it is like actual like thought process. And I think that's the problem is that I'm like my teammates are down. How far do it like my intuition is just like, oh, back up this far, but then like it was too far or something like that. I'm not sure how to quite counteract that.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Um, I think the best kind of approach here is to kind of, if you're in those kind of situations, like do what you usually would do, and then afterwards think about, was that actually like helpful, or did I back up and give up too much space here? Because this game is like, in this game you usually get punished a lot for giving up like space, for kind of backing up without being forced to actually back up, and kind of letting the enemy walk forward without any resistance. But also, you want to make sure you stay alive. You're the cooler support. Your your life is more valued than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Which like kind of goes in general as well, even if you weren't the cooler support. But that definitely adds to it. So like you kind of want to make sure you like stay alive, you maybe give jumps, you get cooler, all that kind of stuff. And it's a really difficult balance to strike, to kind of stay alive, but also still hold as much ground as you can. To some degree, I think it's like dependent on what weapons you play against. Because in a comp like this, you could maybe like stand in some open ground and just hold that open sideline because your weapon outranges everyone and your fire rate is just ridiculous. But then like holding this kind of right side area might be a bit more rough because that's the stack here, right? And that gives enemies a lot of cover to
Mm-hmm.
actually approach you. So it's dependent on like map and where people are. And a lot of this, I think, just you kind of have to figure out through experimentation. Of like you're in some situation, and you do something, and then you just see, was that good? Could I maybe
Okay,
have
yeah.
done more here? Like sometimes you can see, like maybe in this situation you could see like, yeah, you end up moving like back forwards afterwards, where like maybe that indicates we didn't actually have to back up or something, if we just end up moving forward into that same space afterwards. And maybe sometimes
Okay.
it'll also just be like go to it in like open up a replay after a quick game and see what you're kind of doing there. We can go through it with this example. Was it? Yeah, I think we just went past it. To kind of give you an idea of how you could do that yourself, maybe. So yeah, we were in a situation right here. And then some of your team goes down here. Was it a different situation? I'm not even sure anymore. I'll quickly try to find it, I guess. Oh yeah, right here. Okay. And then
Yeah.
replay codes are taking a bit too long.
I guess kind of an indication of I was backing up a little bit too far was because I went behind the crab, which is kind of like a pseudo backline, sort of. Wait, did I? Oh,
The
the
crab kind
crab
of came
backed
to
up.
you. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, the crab kind of came to you. What I would say is that like we can look at it from a top-down perspective. But in this situation, like when you first start backing up, that's totally fair. That's totally valid because it looks like things are starting to hit the fan. Things are starting to go really weirdly because like your crab is in a weird spot here and has to back up, and all that kind of stuff. So like right here, and like there's an enemy crab here as well. So the first intuition of like moving back here is really good, and I mostly agree with that. But then like your Julius gets a bunch of picks here, and that's where I start like thinking we could move forward here, or like at least hold our space.
Okay.
Because as soon as we get those two picks, that means like the only people that are up right now is this Blaster and this Julie, which is in Crab currently. And that's kind of something where like we can see we're +2 from the HUD or like from teammates calling it out. we still have specials,
Mhm.
like we still have a bubble up. You just popped cooler, and that kind of means like we don't have to play safe right now. And like because like those weapons won't catch you off guard. They can't shark somewhere and then immediately pick you, because like the blaster can't do that, or like basically can't do that, and the dually is in crap right now, so we definitely know where they are. Yeah, so that's like kind of looking back at this, kind of what I'd say about this, where like we could have moved up further. I mean, we can also kind of see it where like our
Yeah.
teammates are a lot further up.
Yeah, I also think I kind of need to make more of a correlation in my mind to like the specials that they have to be using. So
Hmm.
not like cooler or anything, but like crab specifically.
Hmm.
Like how you were talking about how crab, like they're in crab right now, so they're
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
specifically out to like
Yep.
out in the wild,
Yep.
looking for me. Trying to aggro me back.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if I could kind of just I'll work on that too. Just kind of like making the correlation between they're in their special, that it's not
Hmm.
uh they're not there's not two of them out there looking for me. I know exactly where
Yep.
one of them is.
For sure, definitely. Because like that's one of the weaknesses of transformation specials. So stuff like Crab, Inkjet, Kraken specifically, because that's the really, really bad part about Kraken. Is that like as soon as you pop it, you don't have your main weapon anymore. So yeah, definitely. But good job like after this, by the way. After your kind of team goes down. Good job backing up here. Like right here, where basically your entire team goes down. Like backing up, not feeding into this brush, and like taking a safe position. Also, very fun curling kill.
Yeah, it's always funny to get those.
Yep. Hmm. Yep, I agree with the positioning here. Yeah, okay. We
Yeah,
lose
it
the
starts
lead.
getting a little
Hmm. Sorry for
starts
interrupting
getting
you.
a little bit frisky.
Yeah. Hmm.
The brush
Hmm.
uh, gets up there on our crab.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of just the point where like maybe we could have stopped this, but also this lead switch just happens. And like
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't ever push tower that far, there's not really that easy way to stop this.
Yeah,
So
it
we
wasn't
kind of have to live
a
with it.
very safe lead.
Yep. um, so even though like lead switches 10 seconds from the game ending are really bad, I think it's the correct decision to like mostly play safe here and kind of let this happen. So unfortunately we go down here, but also enemy had cooler and we couldn't really afford to back up much. We can quickly look at it again. But mostly I think this is like relatively well played from you. It's a bit unfortunate that like we as a team aren't ready to like fully follow up and defend here. But yeah, happens. And then you actually get a really good overtime push. Mhm. I think what
Yeah,
goes well here in this push, because like this push almost gets to lead, right? We don't quite get there, but like
mm-hmm.
after just losing our lead and the tower being over here, to be able to push it like all the way to an instant reverse lead is really good. And I think what goes really well here is that kind of the team coordination works out, and we clear all the areas that we mostly need to clear, and like where most of the enemies come from. So it's like a case of everyone looked in the direction where they needed to look, basically. Um, So like this wiper under ledge is good. We get caught out unfortunately, but like you're able to look in this direction while the rest of the team like looks in this direction, and I think the splash will do the same thing in a second. And that kind of goes really well here. Is that as a team we covered all those different angles. Some of us pushed forward like into where the tower needs to go. Some of us watched the flank where the brush came from. So that's really good. I'm not sure if that was talked about in comms. If it was, then really good job. If it wasn't, then good job coordinating this with outcomes. I kind of try to keep that up.
To be honest, I don't remember. I definitely don't think I said that where I was looking. I definitely called out the person behind us, but I didn't say like where I was looking.
Yeah. Either way, that worked out really well. Try to keep up that kind of coordination when you're playing in streams or like with people in VC. Okay. Any questions about like this game or the stuff we talked about so far?
Not so far.
Okay. Yeah. If you want, we can look at like that Clamps game now.
Okay.
That is this one, yeah. Yeah, this is definitely an open lobby.
Yeah. I felt bad, but I mean.
That happens. Why, like, I'm assuming those are also just like random teammates you're playing with. Okay. Oh, really small thing, because I saw this a few times. Usually it's a good idea to just immediately pick up your cooler. Sometimes you stalled it a bit and then picked it up later, which can be good as well. Like if you're not in any danger yet, and you can reasonably stay in that space and pick up the cooler later, then sure, you have the cooler buff like for more when it's relevant. But usually in situations like this, especially if you want to reposition, the best idea is just pick it up and then go fight.
Pick it up.
And then go take like this left angle or something. Yeah, good job. Good job on this as well. Okay. I would have probably just immediately went on top right here. Because that's a really nice angle, and you pretty much outrange all of their weapons. What I really like on this map, kind of pushing from those two directions, because it's one of the few maps, or like one of the few modes of this map where this wall is paintable, and this wall being paintable adds a lot to being able to push, and being able to like get that plat. And I really like the angle of like taking this, drawing a lot of attention from here, and then being able to like push from like those kind of different angles onto plat. Basically, this angle is good for long-range weapons.
Yeah,
it's also
my
really
brain
good for crack
specifically went I like went right to like my teammates need help back there or something like that. I also kind of like I knew that I didn't have cooler, so I was kind of hesitant to take more like aggressive positioning there.
Yep, and that's totally fair. I get being hesitant if you don't have cooler yet. In that specific situation, it would have been safe because like you just got a bunch of picks and you outrange all of their weapons. So like you have time to get up here. If you see someone immediately shoot at you, you can drop down. But if not, then you have time to get a charge and pretty much fight on equal grounds with like all of their weapons. Because like Pro has pretty much the same range, I think. But if you have a full charge, then your fire rate and your movement speed definitely puts you above. And it just gives you like a few more sidelines than like if you're on low ground here. Okay. Let me know like if when that Greaves Ladder situation comes up, by the way. I think I remember when it happens, but if I
Oh,
miss it, then let me know.
yeah, it's at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah, good score. Nice, and at that point, I think the score's just over.
And this is like another spot where I'm just like, I don't want to back up too much
Yeah.
because we have so much paint, but there's no one in front of me. So
Yeah.
like there's what there are one teammate, and then I'm just like, I don't know, want to go too far in, but
Yeah. And in that case, you like it's weird and open, but the general idea would just be like you hold your space and the rest of the team can move forward. Or like you kind of try to stay here and wait for your teammates to take fights that you can help with crossfire in. Um,
okay,
that's something you did really good in the other two games I watched. I don't quite remember how much it was in this game. But like kind of crossfiring, helping teammates fights, seeing like one enemy, like this enemy is totally focused on my teammate right here, like an imaginary teammate being right here. And then I can easily just follow up and punish them for taking this stupid drop because they were focused on someone else. That's what Edit is really good at. And that's what's like usually the game plan in those kind of situations. Where you have all the space, so you don't need to back up. You arrange all of the weapons, but even if you didn't, you could like probably kind of stay in this area, wait for them to kind of drop and make mistakes, maybe like run into your teammate, or try to take a fight with your teammate, and then immediately crossfire as soon as that happens.
okay,
So here, for example, we could have stayed just like in around this mid area, and then just like hold the space and stop anyone from dropping. That would
okay,
be a bit more rough if the enemy actually had weapons that range you, but in this game they don't.
yeah,
Yeah. And right here, yeah, good job backing up, because we don't actually want to stay around this area. There's a junior here, and we don't want to give them that kind of like opportunity to get close to you. So good job playing around your range here. Yeah, there's people, yeah. Okay. It's an open game, so we can't really talk about it that much here. But it's again a case of like as a team we never looked in that area.
okay, yeah,
Like your Julius went down who was up here and the decaf went to fight back into mid. So like as a team, we never watched that no one could take this flank. And like
yes,
fundamentally, we'd always just as a team like to watch every kind of flank or like every kind of angle that enemies can take. Just to like see as soon as they do it, oh, we know that they're doing it now. Sometimes you want to do that via like watching your map. Sometimes, and that's the easiest way, is just like have different people looking at different angles and looking at different options enemies would have. So it's not really your fault in this situation just because it's open. You weren't like you couldn't talk to anyone about like, oh, I just went down on the right flank. Enemies could take this now. Someone watch it. But that's effectively like what should have happened in like a comp game, I guess.
I also could have noticed more quickly that the person went down over there, and maybe looked at my map at that point.
Yeah, true. Definitely true. That's something you can work on yourself, and that's something that like really good solo queue players will always be aware of. Is like that someone went down over there. Like what kind of options does that give me? Do I need to watch any of that? And yeah, then like your response of like checking map is definitely I like that. Because then you can see like there's paint here, they're taking this flank, and we can respond accordingly. Probably just either jumping out or like trying to back up onto plat. Backing up is a bit weird because we don't want to like look away from the enemy base, basically. That's something we always want to try to avoid. Because as soon as we're looking away from the enemy base, then people can flank us for free and like get behind us for free. But if you have respawns from your team that could like realistically flank this opponent, then it could work. Kind of depends on situation and how well your teammates play this. Which yeah, unfortunate that like our respawn, like the GCAP respawning didn't watch this or like didn't go for this player. Oops. There we go. Yeah. They missed the power clamp. Okay.
Yeah, they did.
Was that the situation you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so
earlier?
that was one of them. So I
Okay.
noticed they had Reef Slider, but I was also like, well,
Yeah.
I have to get the pick back here.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I know that they're going to come up this ramp, but what other choice do I have? Like, I missed the pick there and ended up just blowing up.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point I made earlier about like we want to avoid looking like turning our back towards the enemies or like enemy base or like where enemies are coming from in general. And in this case, we like turn our back towards this like this approach option, which then leads like the Reef Slider getting a really easy pick on you. And
in this situation, would you suggest I jump back to spawn? Or do you think I should just try to because at this point none of my teammates are really back there to jump to.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like pincered here.
Yep. I think there's two ideas that you could do. The first one is try to move up to here. Like take this inkable wall and squid roll up from here and then try to play from here. Because as soon as you're on that kind of high ground, you have a really good angle on this and like you can move here, and like have all this high ground available to you. If you don't have time to go to that, which in this case I'm not sure if you had, maybe if we like took the decision to actually back up and take a safe spot earlier, then we would have. But in this spot, it's a bit weird. If we don't have time to that, then just jump out, yeah.
Okay.
But I think the general idea in those kind of cases should be that we don't want to have to position our camera in a way where we like when we look at one player, we can't look at another one. Because like I'm not sure if we knew, but we definitely could have known that the like undercover was around here. And in those kind of situations, the general idea should always be my position. I don't want to position in a space where, like, if I look at one enemy, I can't look at the other one. I want to position myself in a way where, like, either if I'm here or, like, maybe even if I'm just here, where, like, if I look in one direction, if I look from this direction onto this enemy, I can also, like, out of the glimpse of my eye, hopefully catch this. And that's kind of the main idea here, or like just in general in this game, is to be in a position where we can watch all of this at the same time. So in this case, like maybe like high ground would obviously be the best option, right? Because high ground is just strong and makes it very safe for you. But if we don't have time to that, then just like going here, or like maybe around the uninkable even, would also be an idea. Because from here we can still kind of watch all the areas enemies are coming from without being like pincered, without having to prioritize one of the enemies and like turning our back to the other.
Okay.
Also, try to heal up like after you take a fight.
Oh yeah.
This is another small thing,
I've
but I
noticed
saw it.
that.
But I saw it like in before as well. It's really valuable to just take the time to heal up. Healing up is really fast. and it's it's valuable not being a one shot. Yeah. Yeah, good job painting up everything here. Oh, oh, and we didn't watch it again.
Oh yeah. I actually do
Again,
think
a team thing. Go ahead.
mhm. Actually, I don't think it's this part. Never mind. I think it's the next one.
Okay. Yeah. You actually managed to stay alive here, which is crazy. But yeah, it's pretty much the same thing we talked about earlier with like, as a team, we want to look at those different angles. And if no one else is doing it, then like, I guess it's just kind of your job. Which is difficult to
Okay,
recognize in
yeah.
solo queue because you don't have comps, and the idea would be like in actual like comp matches where you do have comps that you talk about that someone says like there's someone flanking on the right, you need to back up, or like you need to watch that. And then that's way easier for you. Um but yeah, that's just kind of what happens here. Um mhm. Okay. We are able to clean it up well though. Mm-hmm. There's still the player on top right now. Okay, they backed up. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
they're
but
here
they
now.
actually do come around. And I get the pick anyway. I shouldn't have. I should have died there.
Yeah. Um, this, like, sometimes you have to be really careful of this flank. Um, especially in Clamlets, I think it's a really good flank. Um, so like it's a good idea to just keep your eyes on it sometimes. Paint it up if you can. Your weapon isn't really good at painting it up. Like other weapons may just like throwing suction bombs here just to have paint here. So like if someone paints over this, then someone is here. Um,
Hmm.
but like from your weapon, that's a bit more difficult to kind of paint this. But it's still something where like opening your map frequently, seeing if there's paint here can help a lot.
Yeah, when I opened my map here, I saw that there was like only like a little corner and it hadn't changed. So I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I think I'm safe, but
yeah,
it wasn't quite
yeah.
the case.
And that's why like it's sometimes a good idea to paint this up yourself, just because then like
Hmm.
we couldn't know that someone was here because the paint hadn't changed because they painted it up like a bit earlier. Um, but like if we had painted it in the meantime, then we would know that like because there's new paint here, there probably is someone there, or like we at least have to be aware of it that there could be someone there. But yeah, that makes sense. Oh.
Yeah, I
Mhm,
misjudged like the booyah bomb a
yeah.
lot there. I
Hmm.
don't know what I was doing.
That makes sense. Okay. Was that like one of the cases that you talked about earlier, um, where you kind of thought you had a read on the Booyah Bomb, but then it ended up being like being thrown in a different spot or at a different time?
Yeah, sort of. That time it was more like misreading like the timing of it
Okay.
as well.
Hmm. Yeah. I think like in terms of just reading the timing of it, that comes with time. Um, Maybe a part of it is also that they buffed the radius. But at this point that buff is a bit older. So um, you're probably used to it at this point. Um, But yeah, I think that just comes with time, being like fully aware of how long a Booyah Bomb lasts and how big it grows and that kind of stuff. That kind of
Hmm.
intuition like I don't think you can practice intentionally. um, so I think that's just a timing thing. Um,
Hmm.
in terms of what you talked about earlier, where you like said that you like you misjudged where booyahs would go, or you thought they would go in a different place or at a different time. Um, that's something I think where we can keep at that, and kind of for now just realize that our reads like maybe just aren't fully accurate all the time, and then work on that. So like in future, maybe they get better and we can get more info from the kind of thoughts on where enemies would put stuff that we have. Um, because like sometimes it's a lot of mix-ups in like where people put booyah bombs and strikes. Sometimes it's also just they misaim it or something. That can
Hmm.
cause it to end up in a very weird spot that you didn't expect. Um, so it's something where like I think the main idea there is just to be aware like they could throw this anywhere. Maybe I have a good idea of where they are gonna throw it because like that's where it would be strong. But even though I have that idea, I still need to realize like they could also throw it somewhere else. And maybe even because I know and they know that I know, they're gonna throw it somewhere else or stuff like
They're
that.
gonna throw it out. So, yeah, mix me up on purpose.
Yeah. Because sometimes that's legitimately something that people would do. Is like they realize that someone is expecting something, um, and then because of that, like you mix it up. That's something like I sometimes do with crab tanks, for example, where like if I crab tank like 2 or 3 times in a spot, then usually people would expect me to crab tank there again. But then I just crab tank in a different spot, maybe in a way more aggressive spot, and people wouldn't expect that.
Mm.
So that's something to keep in mind. It's like it's a game of reading the opponent and counter reading and counter
Uh-huh.
reading and so on. Um, yeah, another consideration with Booyah is also just like if you look at it, or like strikes as well, if you look at the person that is using them, then you have more time to react to it. Um, maybe we can
Okay.
go into like PB for that in a second. But like if you don't know, like if you don't see the person that's throwing the booyah, then the first kind of visual cue of where it is once it lands. And once it lands, you know, like, oh God, I have to run away. But if you're looking at the user, and you kind of see the whole throwing animation, then you know because like it follows a really predictable arc that like, oh, it's being thrown from there, it's flying this direction, oh, it's gonna explode here, and I have way more time to like know where this is gonna explode and react accordingly and maybe back up or like jump out or stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I can show that like in a PB in a second, I think.
Okay.
Mhm.
I noticed someone in our flank.
Yep, good job. Um, good job seeing and dealing with that. Yeah, we can't really push here. Sure. We could have maybe stayed in mid, but like, I don't hate this decision either. They have a lot of specials, so like, yeah. I don't hate like backing up, giving your team an
Yeah, it
opportunity to regroup.
this is where I start panicking because I
Mm-hmm.
know that the reef slider is gonna come in here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like I said,
Mhm.
like they didn't have the time to come in, but
Yeah.
like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
think like they could have had the time. I think they were on the wrong side,
Yeah,
but
probably. Okay. Then, it's probably mostly due to panic, but we can talk about like what the best idea here would have been, or like one of the best ideas, I guess. Because I think it's genuinely just staying on high ground. Just like either
Hmm.
staying here or like maybe going here. Like this spot would be really good as well because you have more visibility over this. Um, and like you can impact the right side a bit more. But like any kind of high ground, because like what is the reef slider gonna do if you're on high ground? It
Yeah,
can't like
exactly.
the best it can do is 70 damage, and even then you can probably hide like stand back far enough that even that wouldn't hit you, or like behind the ledge so that like the explosion itself doesn't even hit you. And then you can
So,
just beam them.
like, what I was more worried about for the
Mhm.
reef slider was that my teammates were all over here,
Oh,
right
yeah.
in its path.
Let
And
them
so I
die.
was like, if two of, I was just worried that if two of my teammates went down there, we wouldn't be able to hold. Because there's been multiple times
Hmm.
where I've had reef sliders come in, like wipe two of us out, and
Hmm.
then we're not able to hold. And I know that they don't have the highest amount of plans,
Hmm.
so it might not be able to, like, our push might not be able to like last.
Hmm.
But I, like, at times like this, kind of,
Hmm.
like I said, I just kind of like panic because there's been
Hmm.
times before where like I've been in the same situation. We have so much paint control, and my teammates all kind of like clump together right there, and everybody just dies, and we lose in the last like couple seconds of overtime.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I start panicking because
Hmm.
I'm like, if my teammates die and then I put myself into a position where I'm gonna die too, it's a rolling stone down a hill.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. And I get the panic there. Like panicking is something that always like that can happen very fast, and that like just takes knowing more situations and being like more upfront with those situations to resolve it. But even then, panic just sometimes comes up. Um,
Mhm.
the like kind of quote unquote answer to that would be like you can't control your teammates, but you can control yourself. So like
Okay.
even though if people go down, and even though if your entire team wipes to the reef slider, as long as you're still alive and you can still shred the reef slider after it happens, maybe shred people who are trying to approach after that, you still stop the push, or like you still at least try to, and
Yeah.
probably did some damage to the enemy push, by just yourself playing smart. Um, so that's kind of the like main idea there, I'd say. But again, panic just comes up. Also, really funny thing on this map, you can sometimes survive reef sliders by hiding behind this pedestal.
Oh yeah.
So if the reef slider doesn't like do it perfectly and like does a mix up around here, then sometimes this spot isn't even as good as they think it is because this small little bump in the ground can stop the explosion from hitting you.
It just fumbles their whole plan.
Yep. Um, but yeah, that's that's the idea there. Why is the music still going? Interesting. Replay
The
bugs
music has
effect.
been buggy ever since the
Effect.
update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was only for Switch 2, but apparently there's some weird stuff in Switch 1 as well. Okay. Um, do you have any other questions for what we talked about for this game?
No, I think you addressed them all.
Okay. Um, then we can really quickly try to get in a PB. Just to get the point across a bit more about like we are bomb awareness. Um,
Okay.
we can go in like what pool are we going in? Uh, C CM for Coaching Monday because it's totally Monday.
It totally is.
Totally.
Don't tell anybody.
Mm. I'm continuously pressing the wrong buttons.
Me too. I do that all the time.
And then I'll just make a PB lobby real quick.
Okay.
Mhm. You can just go any weapon, it doesn't really matter. I'll just go
Okay.
any heavy booyah bomb spammer.
The best
That's
one.
Yeah. So the basic idea of what we're gonna do is like for one of the examples, you're gonna like look at me when I use Booyah, and for the other example, you're deliberately going to look the other way.
Okay.
And then hopefully you'll be able to like see the difference of how much time you have to react. You'll still be able to like hear the sounds, and that's something you could still hear in a real match as well. In a real match, it'd be a bit more like there'd be more stuff going on. So you maybe like wouldn't totally hear it, but that's still something. Okay. So I'm just gonna pop Booyah on you. You can just like look at where I'm. Okay.
See, it happened again. I thought you were
Mhm.
throwing it at zone for some reason. And
Okay.
so I
Mhm.
like kind of just stood there waiting for you
Mhm.
to throw it.
That makes sense, yeah. Were you like looking at me when I used it, or were you like kind of just focused on
Yeah,
something
I
else?
was.
Okay. Then we're gonna do the same thing again. This time just like totally watch like where I'm gonna throw it. Don't like
Okay.
try to not have an expectation of like where I'm actually throwing it. Just look at like that's where it's going.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of like pay attention to the arc.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you can see where the arc is going and where it's roughly gonna land, and that gives you like a lot of time to actually react to like where it's gonna land, right? We can do it one more time. Just gonna like over here. Yeah, exactly. And now we're gonna do the same thing, but you're deliberately looking in the other direction, like away from me, so that you can't see where the booyah bomb is actually gonna go. Okay. Wait, where are you right now? Okay, over there.
I'm right here.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna pop it like from your base. You just like look into like my base over there. Just don't look at the booyah at
Okay.
all. Yeah, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You have almost no time to react to that. Like in this situation I threw it behind you, so you maybe didn't even see exactly where the explosion was gonna be. Sometimes I might also throw it like in front of you so you have a bit more time. But generally I hope you can see like you don't know where exactly it's gonna be. The only like the first indication you get of it is as soon as you see the explosion, and that gives you a lot less time. We can do it one more time if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Just like look into your base or something. Okay. Yeah, good job getting away this time. But I think you still noticed like you had a lot less time, and you probably took some chip damage as well. So yeah, that's kind of the way it works, and the way it works with strikes as well. Strikes give you a bit more time to actually like react and see like where the explosion is actually gonna
where
exactly
they're gonna
be.
go.
So it's a bit more important with Booyah, to just like see where the actual explosion is gonna be and then kind of react to that, and kind of use the time where you have like I'm seeing the spirit orb fly into my rough direction to see like I can use that time to actually dodge it. So part of it is just like I'm looking at like I'm looking at the arch and where it's being thrown, and like yeah, trying to not have any assumption of like where it's gonna go and just reacting
Of
to where
where
it's
it's
gonna
gonna
go.
go, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because like with Booyah, you totally have time to react to it if you like actually watch where it's going before it's like exploding in your face.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of similar things. If we are already here, so I'll do the same thing with I'll show you a similar thing with like auto bombs and whale real quick. That go in a similar direction. This isn't super relevant right now, but it's a lesson I really like giving. So I'm gonna give it to you as
Oh,
well.
okay. I'm getting the VIP experience.
It's wait, I have to pick the perfect gear for this because trust, that's really important. The idea with this is there's like in a similar way to how you can look at a Booyah bomb and see where it's gonna explode. With auto bomb and whale, you can actually decide yourself where it's gonna go because it follows you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Auto bombs follow you and whale follows you as well. So with both of them, your positioning actually decides how you respond to it. So it's a similar thing of like, if I know where it's gonna go and I kind of keep track of it, I can decide where it explodes without actually like being too worried about the actual explosion. So with Autobomb in specific, you can decide where it explodes. You can just like, if I throw it over here and it gently walks towards you, you can like move away from it, you can move towards it. You can decide, is it gonna explode like where I'm standing right now? Is it gonna explode on zone? Is it gonna explode in my face? Is it gonna explode in my teammate's jump? Which hopefully not.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So yeah, I guess in theory you're probably trying to. So how close do you gotta be to it? Is it like super close or?
You can experiment with it real quick a lot here. I'm just gonna continue throwing auto bombs, and you can like you can see how close you need to be. Just like generally, like relatively close.
Okay.
So like generally what...
Oops, sorry.
No worries. Generally what would be like a good idea is just like in an area where you have lots of paint control, so like maybe around here, and you see an autobomb walking towards you, what you can oftentimes do is just like swim towards it, let it explode and swim back. To like let it explode in an area where it doesn't impact you at all. So like if I throw it over here, you can move towards it and then back, and then it just exploded right here when like
and then
maybe...
it won't explode on zone. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so in this case that was zone. But yeah, totally. You could, for example,
exactly.
say like, we are not gonna let it explode on zone because we don't want that kind of paint there. And a similar thing applies to whale as well. So I'm gonna whale you real quick. And what you can do is like, for this first one, just like, it follows you, right? So notice how like, depending on what you do, the whale kind of follows that. And it's, basically, your movement has an impact on where the whale is gonna go. And, like, if it's gonna hit you, if it's gonna hit your teammates. And that's the most important thing here. So what you can do with whale, if I'm just trying to farm it real quick here, is there's a really nice pattern that you can do, is where like you just walk really slowly to the side, then you jump over, then you do the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
Or something in a very similar way, where you just like, you could also just continuously like slowly walk towards the side, or any kind of that stuff, where like you don't have to actually move that like that much. You can move very slowly to avoid whale, and that would then mean like you don't have to panic. You can just take it slowly. Hopefully your team doesn't get shot, because a big part of whale is when is like chipping enemy teams just through like everyone kind of running around and being scattered. So yeah, you can practice that kind of pattern real quick if you want. Just like slowly moving to the side, and like it doesn't matter that you're moving slowly because whale follows you, so you still don't get hit. Okay. Also,
Okay, so the
mhm,
slower you go, the slower whale goes as well.
yeah, exactly. It just exactly follows your position. Also, to respond to a question in chat real quick, sub power up increases the range thrown and maybe also like the detection radius, but I don't think so. I think it only increases the like distance thrown. In general, sub power up usually doesn't do anything to like explosion radius. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna farm another whale real quick, and then we're gonna what we're gonna do is just do those two things at the same time. Like I'm gonna auto bomb you, and I'm gonna whale you at the same time. And with clean movement, you can just avoid both of them. You can decide where both of them are gonna explode. Um, and like it's a bit more tough because it's two things at the same time, but it's still totally manageable. And that's something where like those kind of like weapons and specials, like to some degree, suffer because of that, because like you can decide where it goes. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
um, that like in a similar way to Weir Bomb requires you to actually look at it to see where it's going to go and like to consciously do the decision of like I'm gonna stop this auto bomb right here. So in a similar way, it like requires you to be aware of it, to look at it, and to deal with it accordingly. Okay. And now I'm gonna double auto bomb you because it's funny. Chickens. Yeah.
Chocolate chicken. Oh,
Okay.
I did not do that well.
Yep. The whale actually got you there. But I think like you still saw like how in general that was really avoidable. You like even though that's like so much pressure, that's like 2 full ink tanks of auto bombs and a special, that's still avoidable. With just like nice positioning, with just like deciding I'm gonna be right here, I'm gonna take it slow, I'm not gonna get panicked by the whale, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, really good job there. So that's the fun thing about whale and autobomb, and similar things as well. But that's most of it because you can actually decide where those things go. Okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
If you want, we can quickly go over the last game as well. I'm not sure if you like have capacity to think of more stuff right now, or if it's enough at this point.
We can quickly go over it if you have the time.
Okay. Yeah, I do. We'll just mostly see if like any reoccurring things pop up. If I see anything that we talked about so far. Yeah. So that's a very similar comp to the one we saw on tower control. And I think a very similar win condition as well. Where like we can try to play around open space a lot when the blaster isn't watching. And try to like
so right
outrange
there,
other weapons.
Yeah. Right there, I noticed that one of our teammates is down and another one of them was in great peril.
Yep.
And so I kind of hesitated here to throw cooler for my last teammate. Because I wasn't sure if I should bring it back or if I should put it for them in case they die to stop us from staggering.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what would have been the best idea here is to throw it like around this area maybe. Maybe in a spot where we can like pick it up from here. So like that would be like around here. Like I mean from like the top of this ledge. Because then like your teammates that are just respawning can get it, and the teammate that's here will probably have to back up anyway, so then they can like get it as well. It's always a bit rough. You usually don't want to throw coolers like behind your teammates, But I think in this case, it would have been a good idea just because, like, they had to back up anyway. Like, realistically speaking, we had to move back anyway here because, like, people are approaching us. And that way, like, you can stay on high ground, you don't have to drop, you can get the cooler from here, hopefully. Or just, like, if you throw it too far, don't pick up the cooler yet. And your teammates can get it when they're respawning.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough opening. That's really rough. Same thing again. And I'm repeating a bit myself here, but repetition is a good way to learn sometimes. So like similar thing. No one actually watched this flank.
Yeah, well, everybody looks in the same direction. Yep.
Yep.
Watch the flanks.
Yep. Just have someone like be aware of where people can come from. If no one is currently, then either you should do it or it's a case of we should have talked about this in comms. And usually the second one. Yeah, good job painting up here. Yeah, nice. Good cooler. We don't grab it again, which is a bit awkward. But we get it here. Yeah, good job. Nice, good job. Oh, we use a lot of specials, oh god. Nice. I like that you back up and give jumps here. Unfortunate. Not quite safe enough.
Yeah.
But that is, like, that kind of works. Like, most of your team still stays alive. Yeah, unfortunate. Crab tank.
Yep, it was the crab. We called it out, but I thought I was safe but I misjudged the distance.
Yeah. No, crab when you're like one hit is so scary, because like the 30 damage explosion is really, really scary, because it's so fast. Nice, good job. I like how like you used your range there. I mean, you didn't get too close to the enemy. Sure, yeah, good job backing up.
And I kind of like waited for people to respawn because we had one person in mid, and I didn't want to put cooler all the way back so they couldn't get it.
Yeah, no, this is really good. My first intuition here would be like to use cooler kind of as soon as you got backed up into your spawn. So like directly as you get it right here, to kind of cooler those players.
Okay.
But I like your idea as well, and it works out like really well in this situation. Where like you're able to cooler the Kraken as well. At least I think that the shot gets the cooler as well. They definitely don't. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like the cooler still works. Your teammates still had it when they needed it, like on the retake. So like, yeah, not bad. I like the idea. Also good job, like, giving safe jumps here. Like that jump to the person. I think they shot. Nice. We can maybe even move up here. Yeah, no. Never mind. Okay. This could have maybe been a bit further. I think in general, right here, that this may be a case of like we should force them out of the area instead of backing up voluntarily. Because you're doing a good job like backing
Okay.
up. And that's how like this should go. That like people pressure you and then you back up and then like you try to kind of hold from this kind of area. But to some degree I'm thinking like maybe we could have stayed here a bit longer. They actually have a crab up,
Okay.
so no. I take it back. You did a good job of backing up. Never mind. I immediately redact my previous statement. Good job getting those picks on left. Nice. Really good. Yeah. Reminder to heal up again. It works out here, but you can just take the time to heal up. It's worth it.
Okay. Okay.
Unfortunate. Yeah, this is scary. Yeah, we couldn't really do much here. Unfortunate. Okay. Yeah. I think overall this is just like the important things to take away from this game are just like more of similar things. Of like positioning well in regards to where enemies are. And I think that's where you did a really good job. Of like backing up when enemies are using specials to kind of take back all of this. Trying to always outrange people. That kind of stuff. And then yeah, that's most of it. And then like some smaller things about cooler placements. But that's like
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of things really small in comparison to the rest of the stuff we talked about today. Oh yeah, also make sure that we have people looking at flanks. Or just like in general different options that people have. And that like we talk about who's watching what, who's looking in which direction, and that we can like fully cover all of the space because of that. Or that like as soon as we can't, we immediately know that. Because right here, like you're the last person alive. If we talk about this in comms, that like everyone went down, I'm not watching this anymore, then you immediately know like, oh, there might be someone coming from here. I have to respect that immediately.
Yeah. They called out and
Mm.
called it
hmm
out.
Okay.
But
hmm
yeah, this was kind of like a tunnel vision on my
Yep.
part. Like I should have backed up a little bit more because I knew that there was a hammer out and I wasn't
Yep.
looking at them.
hmm
So
Yeah.
yeah, that one was on me.
That's kind of the same thing we talked about in Inkblot Clan Blitz, where we want to make sure we have everyone in our camera vision, and we don't really like let people backstab us. So we want to make sure we position in a way where like we aren't right here, where we are trying to tunnel vision, like we're tunnel visioning on this person, we're trying to pick this person, and then someone gets behind us. But instead we're trying to like position in a space where like maybe over here, where we can like look at both of that. And like in that case, we wouldn't really look at this anymore because it's not relevant, and we'd only look at this. But like in other cases, like the Inkblot game, to look in like both directions and to be able to look in both directions. So usually that just means backing
Okay.
up. I didn't fully talk about this in the Inkblot game. Usually, like if you're in a situation where there's someone behind you and there's someone in front of you, that means you didn't back up enough. You didn't take safe positions enough, or like you didn't quite realize quickly enough that like your number's down, you have to back up. And that's like the reason behind backing up, basically, is that you don't get in those situations and that you can look at different people even though they're coming from different angles, because as soon as you back up, those two different angles aren't as far apart anymore. At least like from your point of view, if that makes any sense.
Yes, yes, that's actually a very good way to look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the main parts here. You're doing a really good job of
Yep.
like getting coolers. And your crossfire was really strong as well. Okay. Let's write down some notes. Um, hmm. I really need to figure out a better way to write down notes because I've just been like painting the floor and then writing on my screen. Maybe I should just set up a like Google Doc that I can screen share or something. I'll think about that for future streams. Okay. Um. Okay. We talked about a bunch of different stuff. I think the most important idea by far is the kind of camera positioning one. Um, I yeah, I'd call it camera position. No, camera position implies that like you want to change your camera. I'll just call it positioning, and then we can go from there. Position.
Are you talking about like the looking at the
Yeah.
people and the specials? Okay, yeah.
In brackets camera. Yeah. So like what we want to do is look at imminent threats, I guess. So threats is like quite quite a broad word here, and intentionally so, because we always want to look at threats. So this might be like a booyah bomb. Oh god, there's more fucking bots in chat. This might be a booyah bomb. This might be strikes. It might just be enemies, like in general. But regardless, we want to like keep track of them. We want to look at that because if we look at it, we have way more reaction time and we don't get surprised by it. So we saw with Booyah, like if we don't look at where it's thrown and only see when it explodes, we have way less reaction time as opposed to when we see the arc traveling and when we roughly know because of that where it's gonna explode. And a similar thing with strikes, where like with strikes you usually wouldn't watch where it's thrown that much, and you'd usually just like look at the explosion markers. But in a similar way of like we want to see where this is happening, and we don't want to have like our back turned to it and then accidentally move backwards into strikes or something. And then with
Yes.
enemies, we usually want to watch out like the options that people have, the kind of flanks that people could take, and that kind of stuff. And what we want to do with looking at those is specifically positioning in accordance. So positioning in a way where we can see all of them without like being backstepped, basically. To see everything that's relevant. So like sometimes you might intentionally choose to not look at something. So like if there's a player behind in your base and you know that your team can deal with that, then you don't need to look at that. But usually it's a good idea, especially as the kind of support option or like the more backline-ish option, to kind of keep track of. The sprinkler's annoying me. To keep track of the most important things, and to be positioned in a way where you can see most of that.
Okay.
So to cover the flanks, I think that's the most important idea here. Or like in general, just the options that people have. It just tends to be that flanks are the options that people have because all that Splatoon is comprised of is flanks, because that's the map design. Yeah, and that's the kind of main idea here. Apart from that, we want to position in areas where our main weapon is really strong. So we talked about this with edit, like in open areas where there's not like you aren't positioning around that much cover that people could use to get close to you. Like not being too close to the stacks, for example. Or like if you're close to the stacks, knowing that there's no one there. Yeah. So, what do I need to write down for this? positioning for your main weapon, I guess. Okay, I'll write down where main weapon is strong, because I think that gets it across a bit better. Similar things would apply to special weapons as well if you had something like grab. But since this was like four-headed, it's just about the main weapon basically.
Yeah, basically.
Like in a very limited sense, this could also apply to sub-weapons. Like sometimes like a Neo Splash would position on a high ground area just to spam bombs at the tower. But usually it's just like, we're just thinking about where our main weapon is the strongest, because that's the most relevant.
Okay.
I'll add in specific like four-headed. That would be like relatively open areas. If it's too open, then like you have to watch out for weapons that range you, but usually like open spaces are good for you.
Yeah.
And
You just have to watch for the E-leaders.
Yep. Because crossfire is really the main idea that Edit is trying to do. Edits always want to like... Oh, didn't want to quit. Plus, I'm smart. With Edit, you kind of always want to see where your teammates are, see if your teammates are taking any fights, and then kind of shoot at the people that are fighting your teammates. At least that's the way it often goes in comp. Of course, like, this is an oversimplification, but that's how it goes oftentimes in comp, where, like, your teammate is fighting something, an enemy is so focused on your teammate that they don't see you, then you just pop up and beam them. And that kind of crossfire is what Edit is really, really strong at. So that's what we generally mean with crossfire. Okay. And then I'll just add as a side note, sometimes you can manipulate the threats as well. So with like auto bomb and whale, you can, like, if you put enough attention to it, you can say like where it's gonna explode, where the whale is gonna go, and put that in a spot where no one cares about it, where you aren't as impacted about it, where your team isn't as impacted about it, and basically in a way that the enemy doesn't get any value out of it. Late. Angry smiley. And then that's mostly for autobomb and whale. Sometimes you can manipulate enemies as well, but that's more so like a reading thing. Like reading what they're gonna do, trying to bait them into dropping or something. But I don't think that's too relevant. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess you could probably do it with hammer as well if you want to like bait them into a certain area and then jump out.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. That's a lot of like sometimes you like that's a lot of what like frontline weapons or like Tetras or stuff like that are trying to do, or like Viper, is try to manipulate people to look into a weird direction where the team, like the rest of the team, can then follow up on that and try to kind of follow up on the fact that like someone else on the enemy team is looking like in a weird spot right now, like maybe looking back at their base or something. But it works with like a lot of different ideas. Okay. I think that's the most important stuff.
Okay.
Do you have any questions or anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, you've got like mostly all of it.
Okay.
I think I have a lot to go over too, so.
That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. Then I think that's all we have for today. Thanks a lot for like being around. I hope you had fun.
Yes, it was a lot of fun.
That's good to hear. I'm gonna send you like a feedback form in a second, or like when I've written down everything and stuff like that. And you don't have to fill it out, but it helps me a lot to get better at this kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. I'll fill it out.
Yeah. Then that's everything. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for being coached, I guess, for being interested in this.
Thank you for coaching me.
Yeah, and have a nice evening or a nice afternoon or whatever.